So Colorado's gubernatorial election hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen in 2018. So November of next year, you're going to have to vote for the governor. Colorado, are you ready? You've been paying attention. I know it's a year and a half out, but they've already jumped into the race, and so their opinions are going to, they're going to matter. Right now, you have Noel Ginsburg, Mike Johnston, Kerry Kennedy, Ed Perlmutter, and Erik Underwood are the 5 Democratic candidates who have jumped into the foray. So again, Noel Ginsburg, Mike Johnston, Kerry Kennedy, Ed Perlmutter, and Erik Underwood. And for the Republican primary, you have 5 candidates also. You have George Brockler, Lou Gator, Victor Mitchell, Doug Robinson, and Joanne Silva. So those are the 5 Republicans. 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, nobody else so far. I'm going to spotlight 2 of them right now. You have Doug Robinson, right? Doug Robinson is a Republican candidate for governor, and then you're also going to have this Democrat here, Erik Underwood. Now, he's a businessman. He was a Republican candidate in Georgia in 2007, and then he was a Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate just last year. So I'm wondering how much different is this guy. He was a Republican, so I'm very suspicious of Mr. Erik Underwood. He was a Republican just last year, and he says that his party ran away from him, namely Trump. So that's the big thing, is he's the anti-Trump, right? But because Trump, he's a Democrat now because he hates Trump so much, now he's a Democrat. I don't know. I mean, if he speaks to my issues, which is protect the legalization of marijuana, go Teds, get these damn goats. Diane and I moved to Colorado with 3 young kids and big dreams today. Those 3 are 5 and not so young, but we still have big dreams for the greatest state in the country. Let's make it happen together. Doug Robinson. So I'm looking at his, page here, and you got Meet Doug, you got a Colorado, Vision for Colorado, Doug's Values. So there's it's a nice little campaign page. He looks a little goofy, a little dorky. But I guess in a way that's sort of, it's easy to get along with him, right? You'd be like, oh, I could probably talk to this guy. He seems like he's easy to talk to. I don't know. But let's find out what Doug is all about. So let's see his vision. So his vision is he likes to go around shaking black people's hands, right? Grandpa, number one grandpa, he's shaking. I see the picture here. He looks across Colorado, and he's, sees the greatest state in Colorado. I'll do a compare and contrast this Doug Robinson, who's a legit 100% Republican, versus Erik Underwood, who used to be a Republican, but he says he isn't one anymore. So you have Doug Robinson. He says that he hasn't met one Coloradan who likes to sit in traffic, who doesn't want our public schools to be the best they could be, who doesn't want their kids to have a better job and more opportunities than they had, who isn't concerned about the quality of life in their own neighborhood, who thinks that they're not paying enough for health care, who doesn't love our outdoors and want them to be kept beautiful. So that kind of gives you general ideas, right? He's saying he's protecting the environment. He cares about health care. He cares about quality of life in the neighborhoods. He wants better jobs, better opportunities, good economy, good public schools, and nobody likes sitting in traffic, so I guess he's going to build a bunch of roads. That seems to be, he wants strong leadership to get there. He doesn't want to just drift to a better place. So Mr. Doug Robinson has, priorities here. He's got 5 bullet points. The very first one, he's a typical Republican. He's talking about, getting rid of all these regulations, helping big oil and big gas. So he's very much in the hands of, the big oil companies. And hopefully, that doesn't, I say hopefully, I don't know. Why would I? He's talking about how private companies are created, jobs are created by private companies, not by government. Government can take an active role, but the fact that he's pointing that out, right, so he's all about the corporations. He's all about the private sector. He says he wants to make us a leader in emerging technologies. We got the ability to bring thousands of good jobs through active leaderships, blah, 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 bioscience, industry, cybersecurity. I'm glad he knows these industries. He's talking about building our infrastructure, making our schools great, addressing the drug problem, and fixing the state budget. Seeing what he points out with the state budget mess, he says that the current budget of Colorado is nearly $27 billion, and they're going to get all that tax revenue. It's interesting how here in Pueblo, the county of Pueblo, the county seems very much against the legalization of marijuana, but when they wanted that tax revenue, they had their hands out like, hurry up, we need to do all these. So, fascinating. They want to sit there and be all high and mighty and uppity when it comes to the legalization of marijuana, but when that tax revenue comes in, all of a sudden, they love marijuana, right? They at least love that drug money. So he thinks that he could do all this without raising taxes. He says Medicaid's going from 15% of our budget in 2010 to over 25% today. So that means he's going to go after Medicaid, right? I'm glad that he mentioned infrastructure, but I don't see how you're going to build any more infrastructure than what you got, in the budget. So he's talking about not raising taxes. He says that there's too much inefficiency. I'm glad that he talks about public schools, but ultimately it's all about charter schools, right? Promote charter schools and innovative approaches to learning, pushing more STEM education into the classrooms, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, providing more vocational and career training alternatives. I actually like all those ideas. I don't hate Doug Robinson, just that he's a Republican, so I'm very skeptical of him. He probably will drain the swamp. He's talking about how the state bureaucracy has grown at an alarming rate. Instead of just auditing where the money is, he says we just evaluate the effectiveness and performance of our spending. So he will cut costs. He will cut a lot of shit out. He doesn't seem to care much about Medicaid. I don't know. I think Colorado should have actually passed its own universal health care. We are getting plenty of revenue with the legalization of marijuana and those tax revenues. So he hasn't spoke to my issues yet. He isn't talking about the goat's heads. He's not talking about homelessness, and he's not protecting marijuana. We're talking about the brand new Democrat Erik M. Underwood. So Erik M. Underwood has had an interesting life, okay? Right off the bat, this blog and social media, I'm looking at his website. It does seem pretty sleek. He seems to understand what he's doing. He's got this scroll where it's all these different posts. It looks like maybe Twitter or Instagram posts throughout the last month or two, or just he's talking about how beautiful it is. He's talking about getting cows back into 70 degrees in Boulder. So I guess he's in Boulder. He's got a kickboxing class, Saturday night Boulder, flew in New York. All right, so that's just a couple of things. I just think it's kind of sleek how it's, scrolling up, and then it's got like all the things that he's been posting. So you get a glimpse of who this man is. He seems to understand, online websites, social media. I would assume he's better. Here he says he's now a member of the Democratic Party. He's a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. So I think that's actually important. So Erik Underwood was a Republican because he wants to save money. But when it comes to being a social liberal, that means he's in favor of gay marriage, he's in favor of pro-choice, he'd be in favor of abortion, and hopefully it also means he's in favor of protecting the legalization of marijuana. So far I haven't heard either Erik Underwood nor Doug Robinson say anything about the legalization, protecting that industry. None of them has talked about goat heads, and none of them has talked about the poor, the homeless. What are we going to do about the homelessness? Now, I'm looking at some of his past races. He only got 6 votes in a crowded field as a Republican running for U.S. Senate last year in Colorado. So he didn't do well in the Senate race, and then he didn't do very well in the Georgia race, too. He's got 10 candidates. He came in last. So the 2 political campaigns that he's been in, vote today, I would definitely vote for Erik M. Underwood. Erik M. Underwood is better than Doug Robinson, but that's not the choice that we have. He's sitting there talking about a state solution to immigration. He says that he would offer undocumented residents who want to stay out of trouble and pay their taxes a path to citizenship. So he seems, socially liberal. He seems to have compassion. He seems to have, he's also talking about leading the repeal of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. I guess the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. You don't want to take anybody's Bill of Rights away, but I think what that is sort of the Republican notion that you can never raise taxes for anything. So he's saying that he wants to repeal the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. He says that they're always talking about when it comes to transportation or health care, it's like either or, and he's saying, no, we can do both. We could pay for better transportation and we can pay for better Medicaid. He says that there's money to be paid he's sitting there talking about great people, but they're established people who just don't get it. They don't understand what the last election meant. So the top 2 issues that got Erik M. Underwood into this race the most are transportation and health care, specifically expanding Medicaid to help more people. So there's a direct contrast with Doug Robinson, who wants to cut Medicaid, get rid of it, slash and burn as much of the healthcare Medicaid as he can. He's going to protect it and try to expand it. So I'm more in favor of that. I think that we should have universal health care. I think that it seemed like a pretty well-written bill. I didn't look into it that much, but universal health care, just that, simple notion, a single payer, one universal health care. Yeah, Colorado, let's take care of our own. Can't we do that with all this new revenue that's coming in? Let's take care of our own. We can have both. We can do both. I think so. So I would be in favor of Erik M. Underwood over Doug Robinson because of lawsuit here. He's got his own my24hournews.com incorporated company, and he's suing the AT&T Corporation for some reason. It's a 62-page lawsuit, so he put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm not going to look into it that much. He's also got, I don't want to have to dig for these candidates' policy ideas. I don't really want to talk about the muck and their personal situations too much. He was the oldest of 6 growing up, and I think, it's important to know where people came from and, how he came to be who he is. He's the oldest child of 6. He was, his mother had 2 sets of twins. So Erik has a twin sister named Erica, Erik and Erica. So that's fascinating, right? He's got a twin sister. And even Doug Robinson, they got a nice-looking family. But, what does that matter? Like, it matters, but it's the policies that they talk about. So if you got a pretty family, but he's born in York, Pennsylvania, to a single mother who had 6 children. He didn't have a father present in his life. He did eventually have a Big Brothers and Big Sisters organization, so the Clark family, Jim Clark. And then there was an etiquette book, and he talks about how he was very respectful to women, how he opens a door for a lady and pulls the chair out for the woman to sit at a table. So his grandmother, Victoria, had said, these are the kind of values that he believes in. I don't know. It's, women can open their own doors. Actually, I remember when I went to Jenna Durr. When I went to Xavier University, I opened the door for her, and she said, I can open my own door. So it was like, okay, I guess I fucked up there, didn't I? And then he also goes on to saying that grandmother Victoria talks about how God should be first. I think that'd be another big issue for me, too. Fuck all this, Sharia law, Christian Sharia law bullshit. No, fuck doubt in my mind that Erik M. Underwood is very ambitious. The more I learn about him, the more I do like the man, but he seems like he's all over the place, okay? It's like, come on, get more defined. Who are you? What do you believe? He's talking about how the Clark family made a bunch of money, and then they give him a C-plus book, a computer programming book, and that's the foundation of his, programming and emerging web. Helped Erik to create the idea for my24hournews.com in 2010. His interest in childhood and in high school centered around reading, science, politics, track and field, basketball. He had undefeated seasons in the 110 and 300 hurdles, both in Pennsylvania. Then when he moved to Atlanta, he attended Morehouse College and graduated from Central State University in Ohio. He excelled in basketball and track, majored in political science and international relations with minors in business and journalism. The track and field undefeated in 110 and 300, so he's that as a Republican introduced an Iraq war exit strategy. It gained national attention in 2007. He went into state politics in Georgia. He ran for United States Congress, 10th Congressional District. He's now a Democrat. He's active in the state of Colorado. My 24-hour news is ramping up, taking off. He retired from politics to concentrate on his company. He made a decision along with AT&T to move My24 to Denver from Atlanta, falling in love with the great state of Colorado. He found a new beginning in life. So that's wonderful, right? He's not married. He has no children. He can ride horses. He's a kickboxer. He's into reading and traveling. So he's pretty much very cultured, very well-rounded, young man. When it comes to, he's much better than Doug Robinson, but I still am questioning, why were you a Republican? What was Republican about you? Fiscally conservative, right? So make sure rich people save their money. What about, I'll end it off on Doug Robinson's, his values. He says to work hard, hire the best team, give them responsibility, identify problems, seek solutions, get it done, build for the future, straight talk, and optimism. So he talks about his first job was cleaning the aerators for the local sewage department. Wasn't a pleasant task, but somebody had to do it, and he stood up and he did it. So there is, he is humble, right, to clean out shit, to go into the sewage and clean out shit. But so is Erik M. Underwood. They both are hard workers. One, I don't know. It seems like one, he worked for Vornovich, so who could sign laws and who could inspire the state of Colorado? I really want a character. I want a king. I want a king for Colorado. A Colorado king who will stand up to Trump's federal fucking bullshit when it comes to marijuana. Protect the legalization of marijuana, and let's get these goat heads out of here, and let's get rid of homelessness.